Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Dmitry Karpov. Dmitry is the co-founder and chief innovation officer of Robotics, an enterprise automation platform backed by Combinator and other Silicon Valley investors. Prior to ElectroNeek, Dmitry created and led EY Momentum, a global corporate accelerator of Ernst & Young based in Palo Alto. And at EY, he focused on enabling innovation opportunities for the entire EY global organization with more than 27,000 employees. 270,000 employees, leading annual global innovation and investing in intelligent automation. Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, Dmitry Karpov.
Thank you, Ed. So I guess I should start with saying what brings me here, right?
There you go. So why do you do what you do?
I hate routine. And that's something that comes from my background of I spent some time in STEM. I was a former physicist and or working in journalism. I like analytical work much more than any kind of routine. And when I witnessed how technologies can eliminate routine from our daily activities, I decided to be part of that movement. And that's pretty much what brought me to innovation space at EY. Because in a big firm like that, a lot of routine happens both in front office and in the back office. And it was pretty fascinating to see robotic process automation conquering both internal and external world of big accounting firm. So I was so fascinated by that at a certain moment, I decided to switch tables from being a consultant or being an internal team leader for building a product that I think has a great market fit.
And let's talk a little bit about how you are seeing robotics process automation impacting the accounting profession right now.
Sure. So I think it's all started actually back in 1990s with Microsoft Excel and macro in Excel. So that definitely brought a lot of gains with regard to time savings compared to accounting work or finance work in general in 80s. Surprisingly, routine never left because Excel is not the only one tool that we use. Unfortunately or fortunately, there are many more other solutions. And with every new great IT tool to do something very well, there's more and more tools that pretty much are not integrated, and humans play a sometimes miserable role of being interfaces between different computer apps. And what robotic process automation does, it's pretty much if something could be scripted, do A, then do B, then it could be automated, because what we do in computers could be done by robots that control mouse and keyboard and do exactly the same things that you do. In accounting, the level of requirements, the level of being the demand for being more insightful drives greater and greater demand for working with data, and also having access to this data to make a decision or to give this data to a client on demand and so on. Pretty much that routine can be eliminated with something as brutal as RPA, and also with something more intelligent like artificial intelligence and optical character recognition. These two things together pretty much strip out routine activities from accounting, really creating more like an expert accountant rather than a powerful robot accountant who can process a lot of the same things many, many times, not really thinking much. So I think accountants become much more insightful, became much more efficient. For example, if you spend time on onboarding clients to a computer system like Sage or Intuit in the past, you don't need to do it now. Even if the systems don't have interfaces to do it automatically, the apps I mentioned before, RPA tools can help there. So more insightful, more efficient. And I think in the end of the day, that will lead to accountants compete in these two factors essentially against each other for clients, because now everyone can do things very fast, provide more advice if accountants use the technology in the first place. So to me now, the impact on the profession is that accountants become more experts than before, and their expertise, that's what will really differentiate them in the market when all things get automated.
Sure, and it reduces what we used to call PEBCAC errors, right? Problem exists between keyboard and chair in terms of the ability to
Right.
get the data correct in the first place. So there's even less of that as well. I wonder if you brought up AI, and one of the things that I think some people struggle with, including myself, which is why I'm asking the question, is understanding the difference between RPA and AI. And how would you define the difference between those two things?
Sure. So robotic comes from the word algorithmic. I think that's pretty much a bit of marketing around word algorithm. Algorithm essentially is an instruction. Machine learning, the basic of artificial intelligence, is not about having an algorithm by letting a machine create an algorithm for you when it has certain targets and has certain data to train to do that. For example, let's say you need to take a lot of bank statements and extract certain data from these bank statements for your client interest. Let's say that client has one standard form of a bank statement. So what you can do, and ElectroNeek lets people with no IT skills to do that, you open that in the tool, you highlight different fields in the template and say, hey, here will be transaction number, there will be transaction date, there will be account name. Take this data and pull it into an accounting system or in a text system. That will be an algorithmic or a robotic approach to do that. So for this class of problems, when you don't have variable input, RPA itself with no AI works perfectly well. But now let's say you have hundreds of different bank statements. Let's say you have big international client, and creating a pretty much mapping data from each template will take a lot of time and may not be economically viable if you have change in templates from time to time. Okay, maybe bank statements don't change their form that often, but invoices do. Variability among invoices and bills is pretty high. So instead of training, telling the system, telling the bot where to take the data, you can tell the bot that is powered by advanced optical character recognition system that can work with unstructured data, that you will be looking for transaction numbers, you will be looking for account names, and you will be looking for transaction dates. Machine learning, as part of this advanced optical character recognition tools, pretty much can figure out what is one data, what is another one. Of course, there could be some drawbacks of that, but for standard documents like invoices or bills, that's already a solved problem. With ElectroNeek, for example, we don't have own optical character recognition system, as any other RPA tools typically don't have them. We use partners, technology partners to complement for that. You can pretty much solve the problem of robotic data extraction using one of the free OCR tools provided by Microsoft or Google. They work really well for that class of problems. But if you want to extract data from unstructured documents, then you can use one of the partners we have in our ecosystem and use the solutions together. So in IPA, in AI and RPA, things are a bit differently, like they're different, algorithms versus machine learning. But the greater value for us as users comes from combining these things. But it makes sense to combine them when you have certain class of problems. Unstructured data, decision making. For example, you want to classify transaction as operating or capital expense. How can you do that? You can never explain a bot to do that because it will be pretty much a lot of rules. It will be like sending this bot to to school. But if you have historical data, thousands of transactions, let's say in oil and gas, belong to operating expenses, thousands to capital, machine learning can figure out what are the good traces of these classes of objects and classify it automatically. So it's in structured data, that's classification, and then it's machine vision. For example, you want to automatically navigate through interfaces when they change or something like that. It's more like under the hood of the tool, a bit more advanced level of RPA. We don't actually call ourselves an RPA tool. We call ourselves intelligent automation tool because we brought that analytics component that allows us to find repetitive processes that could be automated. And that's pretty much not an algorithm anymore. But the core is still a robotic approach to automation.
And Dmitry, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
I realized that when I answered this question in my life, most of the people I called heroes became later, my opinion about them changed to pretty something very negative because they've learned something or they did something. These are living people. So the only one exception I would say is my wife. So I will call her my personal hero because she takes a lot of care about our family during this. When you build a technology company from scratch, specifically here in Silicon Valley, people are pretty busy. So even with COVID, very busy, even still saving time on the road. But without her, it would not be possible, and she still has a daytime job. So for me, that's being a hero.
All right. And lastly, Dmitry, how can somebody contact you?
So our company name is ElectroNeek, and my email address is dmitry@electroneek.com. So I hope that it might not be, so it's Donald Michael ITRY at ELCTRONWEK.com.
All right. Dmitry Karpov, co-founder and chief innovation officer of ElectroNeek. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Advice podcast.
Thank you, Ed. Have a good day.
For more Sage Advice, visit and subscribe at sageadvicepodcast.com.